Well, good afternoon. Happy 4 o'clock. It's lovely to see you.
Good afternoon.
Let's be certain that we maximize our time today, because as I mentioned, we do have career night following us in this room. And typically people start showing up for career night about 10 minutes or so early. So we're going to end by 5:50 today. So just in case you're needing to make plans, you've got an extra 10 minutes likely at the end. So, and of course, every time I say that, I oftentimes run over. So it's an endearing quality, I know, but we will do our darndest to get you out at 5:50 so that the next folks can have the room and we can welcome any career night folks as we're on our way out. So we spoke yesterday, we got hot and heavy about finishing up database, and then we dove into open houses as a source of business. Anything that you kind of went home and said, I have to remember to ask him that tomorrow, or any ahas you had from the conversation around growing a business via open houses? Thoughts, comments, questions, ahas?
I got a quick something for you.
Yes, Alex.
I was always told, as I was learning everything, make sure you focus on listings, make sure you get an open house, make sure you're hosting open houses. You're going to get business from the open houses. So I got a listing in Ridgefield. I did 2 open houses because it only lasted 3 or 4 days. And wouldn't you know it, within like 3 weeks of that open house, I had 2 other unrepresented buyers who I ended up representing, both transactions at $750,000. So I was like, look at that. It actually happened exactly as everyone said it would.
Well, see, and the difference, Alex, is that you actually implemented, right? You heard something and said, okay, well, that sounds like I could go and do that. So you went and you got yourself a listing, even though the market was really fast moving, because I hear that in the last 18 months, I've heard that a lot. Oh, how am I supposed to host open houses? Because, things are sold in 17 minutes. Well, host an open house for those 17 minutes if you have to, right? I mean, again, it's remember, can't equals won't. So why is it that you're not willing to do what Alex just told you about? Do what you can do. What can you accomplish? And there's the simple reality is, even in a fast moving market, if something comes on the market and is under agreement in the first 24 or 48 hours, if it was my listing inventory, I'd keep hosting open houses. I would absolutely have, if Donna was on the other side of that conversation, of that transaction, I would just simply let her know, hey, look, the sellers are not pushing for open houses. I am. And so I'm going to continue to hold this property open, not because we're looking for someone to replace your buyers. We're looking to maximize the business opportunity of the listing, right? Now, maybe Donna says, that's all well and fine. I'd really prefer you not do that. And that's okay. And yet, right, as long as you and the seller have an understanding, you can certainly keep utilizing that as a tool. The other thing I would say to you is, you have an accepted offer. Well, there's usually a couple of days in there, but that attorneys have to get involved, where inspections are being done. I wonder, in a fast moving market, if one shouldn't have a strategy such that you put the property on the market on Wednesday night. You then host open houses Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, while everyone else is doing all their showings or whatnot. And then the seller can make decisions on Sunday night about what they want to do and how they want to do it. Right? And maybe a couple of those offers are now yours because you've met some folks, or like Alex said, you meet some folks, they either don't buy that house or don't win that house, and you go and sell them another $750,000 house. That's $1.5 million in volume from the open house, right? That's exactly the idea of squeezing every orange to make some orange juice, right? You got to just squeeze every drop out. I love that. Thank you, sir, for sharing that. Anything else? No one wants to follow Alex's $1.5 million win at open houses. You silenced them, Alex. All right, so let's just finish up open houses, because we didn't cover a couple of things that are really important with regards to making sure that open houses really bring you the opportunities in the business that you are looking for them to bring. And the first conversation is, what are you doing to drive traffic to your open houses, right? We started to have that conversation with the nosy neighbors, but what else are you doing? I need to open my chat in case you guys are using the chat. Hold on a second. All righty.
Neighborhood mailings for sure.
Yeah, right. So you're mailing to the neighborhood. There's that nosy neighbor strategy, right? Maybe you're then doing a walk around the neighborhood to knock on doors, inviting people, or phoning through. And remember, I love the idea of the 30-minute preview time for the nosy neighbors. Make it sound special. What else are you doing to drive traffic?
Facebook ads.
Yeah, social media, right? Drive traffic via social media. The newspapers of yesteryear, social media, right? What else?
Open house signs.
Yeah, so absolutely signs. You all know that I like a lot of open house signs. 8 to 10 per open house. I want people to see your name. I want there to be directionals from at least one, if not two, major roads to get into that open house. And for that, you need a whole bunch of signage, right?
Also,
if you don't-
them early and put the time.
Say it again, Bogdan, I didn't hear you.
I said, plan the signs early and say, open house Thursday from 6 to 8 or 5 to 7, Friday from 5 to 7, Saturday, Sunday, 2 to 4 or whatever.
Yeah, so there are some municipalities where you can set out open house signs for a Sunday open house. I know agents who put them out on Friday and then they just sit all weekend advertising the open house. There are a lot of municipalities that if you do that, you'll end up with no open house signs, because the zoning people come around and take your signs and they put a big orange violation sticker on it and throw it in the back of the truck. So just know the rules.
Oh, those cities, I'm sure New Canaan is one of them.
I'll let you know, anybody who gets a listing in Greenwich, you cannot put up for sale signs in Greenwich at all. You will be fined. They're
Yeah,
not
so-
allowed.
So just you need to know what municipalities have what rules, right? There are some municipalities that have size rules about signs. There are some that have rules about getting permits beforehand. There are some rules that say nothing, right? So know what they are per municipality and just follow those. However, to Bogdan's point, if you can, in the municipality you're hosting the open house in, set things out early so you can have a couple more days of advertising. That is a good idea, but know the rules first. Anything else?
You can
Erica.
do like maybe a sneak peek live or like a sneak peek virtual where you're showing like parts of the house like days in advance just to, attract buyers and stuff. Just an idea.
Yeah, I love that idea, right? You start on the driveway and show you walking up to this awesome house, opening the door, you get a small little peek into the foyer, and then you cut it and say, join me for the open house. I think that's a great idea. I like that. What else, Bogdan?
Virtual open houses.
Yeah, so you can certainly do virtual open houses. What I think the virtual open house today, the place where that lives is host your in-person open house, and while you're there, do a tour. Just record it.
Also, what I did in the past with a few of my listings, I did them on Facebook Live, and I used the 3D Matterport. So I will walk through the house and explain, this is the kitchen, granite countertops, blah, blah, blah.
Love it. Right, but my point with the recording it, you don't have to necessarily do Facebook Live, right? You can post it on Facebook. It doesn't necessarily have to be live. What I think we were finding, even during the shutdown period, when these virtual open houses kind of took over the open house world, is that people were getting more shelf life out of a recorded and posted open house than they were just the Facebook Live. So yeah, again, host them in person. And then while you're there, if you have 5 minutes of downtime, walk through the property and then post that on social media. See what you get from that. Yes, Donna.
Yeah, and to that same point, you can do a virtual walkthrough or host the open house, do the recording. I upload it to my YouTube channel, which is not public. I haven't done, I'm not doing that. That's for a different thing. But then I can share that on social media if I choose, but I can share it with different clients that call about it, especially during COVID. I'd often ask them to please look at the video, the virtual video, before we schedule an appointment. Let's see if you really like it, sort of thing. As well as, this is a service that I offer for my clients, my buyer clients, with the fast-paced market, is I will make an appointment to see it as soon as I can possibly get an appointment to get in there first thing, do the virtual walkthrough with my phone, talking as though they're standing next to me and they can't see, like explaining everything, every corner. And then I send them that. So they know if they need to run right out here. Often, twice last year, we put in an offer based on that, and then they came up and saw it because things are moving so fast.
Yeah, I love that idea. Right. And the only thing I will say about that idea is do make sure that the listing agent knows that you're going to be doing that, right?
Yeah, and I do. When I make the appointment, I let them know, because they want to know, you bring in your clients. I'm like, no, it's not more than a pure preview. This is what I'm going to be doing. And yes, they agree to it. Yeah, I wouldn't do it without that.
Yeah, because some sellers are very sensitive to, cameras in their house or whatnot. So as long as you're clearing that with the listing agent who's clearing it with the seller, then go for it. Love that idea. All righty. And the last thing I would say is make sure that your database knows where you're going to be. Blast out to your database. Hey, open houses for the weekend. I would love to see you. Stop by and check out this beauty. Whatever. Every single time you host an open house, make sure you blast your database, telling them where you're going to be. Why is that important? Come on.
Well,
What do you
I
want,
think for,
want to follow you
oh.
there? Sorry, Don.
Say it again, Stuart.
You want, I mean, the more the merrier. So if they get the word out, then you have them tagging along, and it's just advertising, which is great.
Yeah, so the first reason it's it's important is exactly that, right? You want more people there, because then you have, remember, everybody wants what everybody wants. And so that's like the psychology behind an open house. It's like, if nobody else is there, well, gee, does nobody want this house? Plus, you get a face-to-face with people in your database, right? What else? Really important reason.
I was gonna say it's a reminder to them that you do real estate.
Yeah, 100%, right? That's exactly right. And not only is it a reminder that you do real estate, which is massively important, as we talked about, right, yesterday. I think it was Erica, actually, you gave that example, right? That somebody that you knew you had discussed this with came back and said, oh yeah, I forgot you were doing that. So it's one of those reminders. What else? I want you to write these 3 words down, because they're going to come up again and again and again next couple of days. Pattern of success. Pattern of success. You're showing your database how busy your business is. You're showing your database that you represent all these cool houses. They don't know they're not your listings if they're not your listings. Right? You're telling them every single Thursday, hey, I'm going to be here, 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 and here. And what they see and what they take away is, my goodness, she's a crazy busy realtor. My goodness, look how many people trust her with their homes. Right? Remember, you're always modeling behavior. And so reminding your database about your open houses every week, you're just showing them, A, you're a professional, B, you're busy, C, that people are hiring you. So if there's any doubt in their minds, it's almost like free third-party validation, right? It's reviews without the struggle to get them. Make sense? All right.
Question.
Yes.
So what if they ask you, is this your listing?
Who? Your database?
The database that you're, inviting to join you on the open house. You're saying it doesn't have to be your listing and they don't really know whether it is or it isn't. But what if, they say to you, oh, is this your listing? What do you?
So if they say, so one of my major rules of thumb is never lie.
Right.
So first of all, I can tell you that nobody cares if it's your listing or not. So it's very unlikely they'll ask that question. And if they do, you just answer it. No, is it my personal listing? It's a listing in my brokerage. Right? My team and I have listed this. I want you to write that phrase down. My team and I have listed this. One of the ways that you get to answer questions truthfully, honestly, and still get credit for stuff that's not yours is just don't say I, say my team and I. Just change the pronoun. When you change the pronoun to my team and I, the work that you do and produce, plus your 599 other colleagues produce, all kind of starts to gel together. It's one of the ways that you get to present yourselves as slightly bigger than you currently might be. Right? It's a version of marketing. What else? Anything else? Okay, so last thing I want to address with open houses, well, two last things. So the first last thing is recognize that there is a successful way to treat people when they walk into the open house that creates better conversion on the back end. And the way that I'm going to encourage you to treat people when they walk into your open house is not like a prospect, more like an already signed client. When they walk in and you just start talking to them as if you've known them for 10 years and ask them great questions about what their needs are and treat them like a client that is already in your pocket, that you're already serving, that comes across very differently than if you start to have conversations looking for the opportunity to sign them. So it's really quite simple. Hey, welcome. It's lovely to see you. What brings you here today? I'm curious. Do you live locally? Oh, you do. Do you currently own or rent? Oh, you own. That's awesome. How long have you lived in the neighborhood? Oh, that's great. So tell me again, what brings you here today? Oh, just looking. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Well, this is a beauty of a house to just take a look at. Please go ahead and sign in on the dining room table. The sellers have asked that everyone who tours the house register. And then I'll let them loose on the house or accompany them or however you're going to do your thing, right? But then the idea is check in. Hey, how's it going? Any questions you have? Maybe there's an opportunity for you to shoot them your consumer app hey, I'm curious, before you depart, would it be helpful for you to get real-time updates and have access to the MLS, kind of like I do? All I need is your cell phone number. Is this it here from where you signed in? That's how you know if they've given you a fake number or not. Right? And shoot them that KW app. So now they have you in the palm of their hands. Just keep giving. You need a map? Here, I'm going to give you that. You need information about the town? Here, I'm going to give you that. Oh, you need some more information about whatever? I'm going to give you that. Give. Don't ask of them, just give to them. Because then that moves us into, and I know there's a couple of questions, I'll get there in a second. That moves us into the follow-up stage. And when you behave the way I just described at the open house, the follow-up, which by the way starts the night of, so later the afternoon or early evening of the open house, that's your first touch base with them. That goes far differently than if you are trying to reel them in as a buyer. There was a question, Marlene.
Yeah. When do you ask them whether or not they're working with another realtor?
That's on my sign-in sheet. I let my sign-in ask that question.
Okay.
No, can you ask it verbally? Sure. It's not wrong to ask it verbally. However, I like, the only reason I don't like to ask it verbally is because that to me doesn't sound, again, that's not a question that I would ask someone who's already my client, right? And so to wave that flag, it sounds like I'm fishing. It sounds like I'm fishing for a client instead of offering some assistance, offering my service. So I let the sign-in sheet handle that.
Like with a question, are you working with another agent? I mean, what do you say on your sign-in sheet?
Yeah, the sign-in sheet has a question right in the middle there that says, are you currently contracted with another real estate firm? Are you currently contracted with another real estate firm?
What if they're not contracted, but they've been working with another?
Yeah, I don't, if they're not contracted with somebody, well, then they're fair game. And I just proceed. That's why the question is the question, the law requires us to know whether or not we're going to step on anybody else's contractual toes. If there's no contract in place, that's why I don't ask the question, are you working with someone? Because everyone says yes to that. It's a very, very specific question. Are you currently contracted with another real estate firm? The answer is easy, yes or no. And if they are, then great. Then I offer them service and wish them well and la-di-da. If they're not, then there's an opportunity there. Lisa and then Bogdan.
Yes, on mine where I have on my slip, are you working with another agent? But I think changing it to, written contract with another agent or something similar to that. But I also have the name of the agent, because then they have to actually put a name down. And also you want to circle back to that agent to see if they have any interest.
Yeah, I love that idea, right? So are you currently contracted with another real estate firm? If so, who and who's your agent, right? You can certainly follow that up. Love it. Bogdan.
I like to ask them when they walk in, who's your agent? Like that, they cannot lie. They got to think of a name.
Well, yes, and yes. I would just be careful that that's, again, I'm not sure that's exactly the most welcoming way to have someone enter the property. It kind of sounds like the Spanish Inquisition, and maybe you do it differently than you just did.
Yeah, I'm not that. I put a big smile under my mask.
Indeed. Well, and you're good at that. So, Alex.
I did just want to mention that I've gotten clients who had agents before, they're working with someone, and I just kind of talk to them a little bit, give them some information, keep in touch with them. And then like a week down the line, I find out, oh, we're not actually signed with anyone, and you've been more valuable to us than the people we've been talking to. And then guess what? 2-3 days later, they're now my clients.
Bingo. Bingo. That's why you capped 18 months after you started real estate. Just saying, right? Because what Alex is telling you right now for the second time is you've got to, again, think strategically. You have to think strategically. What is the path to the win via service, right? Not what's the path to the win via manipulation. What's the path to the win via service? How can I be more helpful than any one human that you've ever met ever, so that I become irresistible, right? That really is the goal, to be irresistible from the perspective of serving, which Alex, clearly you are good at. Marlene.
So are you talking about, when you say contracted, are you talking about a buyer, a buyer contract relationship?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of people don't sign that, okay, or want to sign something like that, but they are working with someone. And in my experience, which, isn't obviously in this market, if they come over to you, they could easily go over to another realtor. There's, in other words, I always looked at it like I was stealing that buyer from another agent, and I was in a small market, so I knew everybody. I wouldn't want to, step on anybody's toes. But maybe here it's different.
Well, I don't think it is different. I think there's a different mindset maybe that I could offer. Or I don't think the markets are necessarily all that different. Again, I did most of my work in tiny, small, sleepy Richfield, right? So you're not stealing anybody from anybody, because if there's no contract in place, that nobody belongs to anybody except contractually. Agency is only created via one of two ways, either a buyer contract or a listing contract. And so if no agency exists, there is no stealing going on. Again, if there's an agency relationship, well, then the law requires us to just simply back off, be helpful, and wish them well. The simple reality of, if they come to me from somebody else, they might just go to somebody else. I don't work with buyers that I'm not contractually related to, right? So nobody gets in my car, nobody gets my time, nobody gets a second of me until or unless we're in a contractual relationship. And the conversation around that, we're gonna go through that whole thing starting next week with the buyer consult, right? But you have a buyer consult, you then ask to be hired, and you only work with people moving forward if they've actually hired you.
Okay, that answers the question.
100%. Ms. Zielinski.
Rick, following up with what you said and teach, and it's my 5th time, I always remember, always model behavior and give. So I do have right now a client from my open house, and she actually placed an offer on my property, was lowball, we didn't accept her, but she has over $1 million cash. And she mentioned that she's working with realtor. And I said, okay. So basically after 1 month, she told me what she's looking, and I just decided to give her a call. I called her and I said, listen, I'm thinking about you. I'm putting on the market new condominium, and I think maybe it will be interested. And I give her address. She said, Anna, you cannot believe it. I was just browsing that address because I'm very interested in that building. And I said, oh, that's great. I mean, I will be happy to help you. And we start to talk. So now we're almost talking every day. And she's calling me not just for that. She's asking me where she can order food and stuff like that. But anyways, she told me, Anna, I signed up contract with a realtor who I know 20 years, but I don't have that warm relationship. I cannot just call her and ask some questions. And I would like you to put in deal that I will close. I just signed for Chesterfield Complex and Trump Plaza, whatever. And I said, of course, no pressure. And I understand that you don't want to ruin your relationship, whatever will work best for you, but I'm here for you. And here you go. And so we're talking every single day. It definitely works. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I just want to create some clarity for everybody on the call, because what Anna said was this potential client is a signed client of someone else, however, for just 1 or 2 complexes. And so the fact that they are limited in representation allows Anna to go ahead and also have a relationship over here, as long as she's not stepping on anybody's toes because they're contractually signed for those 2 complexes. So if anything ever comes up in Chesterfield or anything comes up in the Trump building, and is hands off, but every place else she can be hands on, right? Just so that's clear. She's not stepping on agency lines there. She's very cautious around, I represent you or can represent you in all these other areas. But the most important thing, or as important message that Anna just said, was all she did was care. And here's the important part. She didn't care in her head, or she didn't care in her heart. She actually took that care and took action around the care, right? By making a phone call, how are you? By talking about a good restaurant, or being a resource, right? That level of care impresses people, which is exactly the whole point. Thank you for sharing that, Anna. Donna Gilbert.
And so staying on the care theme, when they come in and you ask them questions like, are you working with someone? Listen to the answers that you get. And I'll go a little further on that. So yes, I do say, if they say, yes, I'm working, I'll say, oh, with whom? And they'll say, Joe Smith. No matter what they say, my answer is always the same. Oh, he is fabulous. Okay. And then as we're walking around, and they start asking me questions that are something that maybe their agent should have already prepped them on. Is this neighborhood moving? What do you think the house is? They'll start asking you questions. And sometimes I'll say, that's interesting. Did Joe not share that with you? After 2 or 3, and not in a bad way, not like, oh, he didn't know. It's like, oh, but I'm sure that he has the information. It is surprising how many times one will look to the other, or maybe it's only one person there, and you'll get the true confession. I call it the true confession, which is, we're not really working with anyone, but I like what you're saying. How, and this really happens. How do we get to work with you? What do we have to do? I mean, they're like ripping the papers out of my hands to sign the contract. It's because you gave and you stayed engaged. So to Alex's point about picking up clients, I've had people come in, their house is on the market with another agent, and they're unrepresented to buy. It makes me cringe. And so, yeah, do I go in for the kill? Absolutely, because they're not under an agreement for the buy side. And for me, personally, if I have an agent that doesn't have the wits about him or her to get the pieces of paper signed that they need to get signed, I'm not stealing them from anyone. I'm actually rescuing them from someone who's not doing their job.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that.
Rescuing is that is the that's kind of the mic drop moment there, right? Thank you. Consider yourself rescued. Moving on.
They need to add a mic drop to reactions.
Yes, that's somebody call Zoom and mention that. Tony, and then Marion, then we're going to move forward.
I'm going to probably rant a little bit. That's a tough act to follow. But I'm, maybe it's the elephant in the room, but I'm not afraid to say to people that are hesitant words to the effect of, this is not the easiest time to be a buyer, and you need somebody who's going to be committed to you. And, you know, there's a pretty good chance that the first time we make an offer on a property, it's not going to be accepted because you know, so you're going to need somebody, you know, not only am I going to help you buy the house, I'm going to take the hits with you. We're going to bleed together. You know, they need to know that. And, you know, you want to go with a flaky person that you don't want to sign with? Well, guess what? You're going to get the same results in return. But if you sign with somebody, they're going to be in the battle with you. And I sometimes think that needs to be said. So that's my rant.
Yeah, no, and I'm gonna pull that back out of you next week when we're sitting talking about the buyer consult, right? Because sometimes people just need to understand why it's a benefit. Why it's a benefit. It's a benefit to have somebody on your side, right? You don't have anybody on your side if you're not a contracted client with somebody with a brokerage. You got nothing. Zippo, right? No one has pledged anything to you without a signature. But in return, for me pledging 115% and my blood, we're going to have that signature.
And I tell people, you know, for as bad as this moment might seem right now, I've been doing this long enough to say to you, I already know your outcome. It's going to be awesome unless you panic, and it's not going to happen on my watch.
There you go. Those are great fiduciary scripts. Marion, take us home.
Hi. So there's a situation where another realtor met with the seller, and the seller was not pleased with the way things went. And then the realtor came back and brought a buyer with an offer. And meanwhile, the seller has expressed interest in working with me. So back to some of the comments Marlene made. What, you know, is there any obligation between the seller and this this other agent just steamrolled through without any kind of go ahead from the seller?
Well, so is there a listing contract in place?
So there's no listing contract, no.
Okay, so that's the answer to the question, right? So in these scenarios, sometimes guys are simpler than you want to make them. And what I mean by that is the answer, it's kind of like being pregnant. You either are or you're not. There's nothing in between, right? And so there's either a contract or there's not a contract. If there's a contract, well, then your opportunity and obligation is to step back and allow that to play out until or unless the client proactively contacts you, in which case then you can certainly take a meeting and offer your services for the day after their current contract expires. Or if they're going to go and work with the brokerage to try and get out of something early, that's great. You just can't have any conversation around early termination. You can't suggest it. You can't tell them how to do it. The only thing you can simply say is, look, if you're unhappy, I suggest talking to the broker of the brokerage that you're currently contracted with. End of story, period. That's what you can say. Right. And so whether it's a lister of seller or a buyer, the first question is, are they represented? If they're represented, guys, in the state of Connecticut, if you cross over the line with a represented party, right, it's called tortious interference with an existing agency relationship, right? That doesn't sound good, does it? No, because it's not. So it's like that's the line. And I have said to many of you, I don't think I've said it in this classroom yet, but I've said to many of you in other scenarios, look, I go right to the line with you. I will toe the line with you. However, we can't step over the line. The second we step over the line, and that line is determined by agency. If there's a relationship, either buyer or seller, your obligation is to stand back until they the client proactively contacts you, you can certainly have then a conversation. However, you can only have a conversation about services for the period after they are no longer represented. So in the scenario, Marion, that you bring to the table, if there's nothing in place between an agent and a seller, I'd be on the phone with that seller like in 20 minutes to say, hey, just thinking about you, wanted to make sure that you got the best representation possible. I'm curious, is there an opportunity for us to meet later tonight or tomorrow for me to really understand your needs?
Okay, thank you.
And you then assert yourself. Remember, I told you all the other day, aggressive is one of my favorite words, because aggressive, when you're aggressive on someone else's behalf, right? I see the scenario that Marion painted or described, kind of like what Donna said before. It's me going in and rescuing the seller from somebody who may be just kind of slick, right? Who is this buyer? Where'd they come from? Why is there no agreement in place? What's happening here? There's a process. We live inside of an industry where there's a process. Let's just go through that process. Now, it could well be that this other person, because a lot of people say this, and if you hear yourself in this, I'd love for you to check this at the door moving forward. There are a lot of real estate professionals who start conversations out with the phrase, I can get you. I can get you that house. I can get you more money. I can get you the deal. I can get you this. I can get you that. No, you can't. No, you can't. What I can do is offer you awesome service, interpret current conditions so that you can make the best decision possible. That's what I can do for you. I can use my experience to help troubleshoot things before we even know their issues. I can get you to the closing table, not just an accepted offer. Those are the things that I can do. I can't get you anything. The market will get you whatever the market chooses. You always are in control of what you get, because you get to say yes, no, or something in between, right? So what could be happening in that situation that Marion described is simply that. Someone maybe swooped on in and said, oh, in this market, I can get you X. Guys, I'm going to tell you what, in all transparency, one of the things that I used to do when I was really new to the business, I'm not terribly proud of this. Just so for those of you who don't know, I did a lot of things when I was new in the business, none of them illegal, but things I just wouldn't necessarily encourage or condone today. And one of them, he says, cloak and daggery, one of them was bring family members as buyers to showcase the fact that I had actual people who were looking for a house like yours. My grandparents were in town that weekend. Oh, you know what? I have a potential listing. Do me a favor. I'm going to shoot you over there. We're going to walk you through that house. Because I wanted the sellers to see that when I said that I had connections to buyers, I wanted people to see that I was right now. Now understand that today that was the 28-year-old me, the 50 almost 2-year-old me says that's kind of a version of lying, right? And it's unnecessary. You don't have to necessarily showcase fake people, right? Build a bigger, better value proposition. And you don't need the fake people. However, my point, Marion, is the person that kind of swooped on in with the I can get you might well have had their grandparents in tow, which is why the property isn't sold, because they weren't real buyers. If they were real buyers in today's market, there's no reason the property wouldn't be sold, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation because the seller wouldn't need you. Right? So look at it from above and really kind of pick it apart and say, This is likely what's going on here. I think I need to ride into my white horse and rescue this seller. And if there's no contract in place, I kind of believe that you almost have an obligation to go and do that. Let's go save that seller from whatever's going on there. All righty. Whew. That was
Rick.
a lot. Thanks for putting that out there. That was a good one.
Rick, a quick question.
Yeah.
Would you, if you had a real buyer, would you take them over if
Yeah.
you've approached the owner before you have a listing?
Before I have a listing agreement? No,
Yeah, right. Okay.
no. Nope. Signatures first.
Yeah,
people
that's what I thought.
You got it, right? It's always signatures first. Oh man, I would love to do that. Sign here. Oh, what an awesome opportunity. I think this is going to work brilliantly. Sign here. Right? It's always signatures first and then people second.
Rick, yeah, it is very difficult for people who are very reluctant to do that right away. How do you proceed to do that?
Who are reluctant to
Sign the contract right away before you can show them any house.
Yeah, so it's a great question, and what I'm going to do, Jorge, if it's all right with you, is write that question down, because I do want to move through source of business the rest of today. That's really a great question for next week when we're talking through the buyer consult, because the buyer consult, the quick answer is the buyer consult answers most of what you just asked and allows for people to understand why that's a benefit to them. Right. So that's the from space answer. When we get through the buyer consult, page by page by page, I'm going to hand you a 10-page script next week for the buyer consult. It will make better sense to you what I just said. But that's the from space answer. And then there's a couple of workarounds, because remember, not everything works 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'll throw out some workarounds. But if it's all right, I'm going to put that in my back pocket and bring that back out next week for you.
Thank you, sir.
Certainly. All right, so lastly with open houses, before we move to another source, lastly with open houses, the main key with success with open houses, besides how you behave during the open house, is the follow-up that you bring to after the open house. And I'm always fascinated when people tell me, I host open houses all the time. I feel like I have really good conversations, but then nothing ever happens. So well, tell me about that. What does that mean? Nothing ever happens. Well, they never call. That's correct. Let's go back a week and a half. Remember, it's not their job to call you. It's your job to call them, right? So the answer of they don't call, that's right. They're never going to call, right? Not their job. So the follow-up is crazy important. And I believe the best follow-up is sincere and fast. And what I mean by that is you've had this great conversation at the open house. It's Sunday at 3 o'clock, they leave, you close down, you go home. Well, by 5 or 5:30, you should be on the phone with those folks you met a couple of hours earlier. Do your follow-up that same day. Solidify that fun, fuzzy feeling they had about you. And the follow-up same day is really simple. It's hey, Alex, it's Rick Scott, you and I just met each other a couple of hours ago at 123 Main Street. Listen, I just wanted to call and say what a pleasure it was to meet you. You really kind of made my whole afternoon worthwhile. So I appreciate you stopping by, and I just wanted to call and say that. And hey, look, if there's anything I can do to assist you in your home search moving forward, you know where to find me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to shoot you a quick text after we hang up, so it's simple to find me in your phone. If you have quick questions, just shoot me a quick text, and I'll be happy to get back to you ASAP. Hope you have a great evening. Enjoy 60 minutes. Bye. Right? Simple and fast. So we had Alex first and then Cal.
I don't know who was saying this, but in one of the morning calls or something, they were saying like be aggressive, like schedule appointments with people who come to the open house that day for like later that day. Like you want to touch them like as soon as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, and this is a version of that, right? So if you really have people who are hot to trot and are unrepresented, if there's other inventory, right? One of the things that I used to do is look around and see, okay, I'm hosting an open house in this town at this price point. Like, what are the other 5 or 10 pieces of property that if they don't like this house, we can pivot them to? And back in the old days, at least where I practiced, we used to call the sellers directly. Agents would call the sellers directly to schedule some schedule the appointments. So what I used to do is I used to pick 3 or 4 of those properties, and I used to call the sellers proactively to say, hey, this is who I am. I'm hosting an open house down the street from you, or on a house that is similar to yours. And I'm curious, I'm there till 3 o'clock. Just in case I have someone who comes to the open house who isn't interested in purchasing the home that I'll be hosting the house, the hosting in, could we have sort of a floating appointment around 3:15 or 3:30 at your house that I may have to call and simply say, I have nobody, cancel, or cancel at the last minute. Are you okay with that? Why would I do that? Well, for exactly the reason that Alex just brought to the table. If someone comes to the open house, is hot to trot to purchase and isn't interested in that house, why am I going to say, okay, well, you know what? I'm available again next Sunday, so why don't we put this off a week, right? They've already purchased 3 houses by the time you see them next Sunday. So let's move them. So nowadays, since we're not calling the sellers directly, you don't necessarily have that opportunity. Although knowing the inventory, having the inventory on your KW consumer app to be able to start showing them other opportunities, other possibilities right then and there, here's where the word aggressive comes in, right? Aggressive on their behalf. Hey, I'm curious, Alex, is this a house that you think you might want to purchase, right? The house I'm hosting. And Alex says, no. Well, do me a favor, just so I can help you moving forward. What do you kind of wish was different? What's the main criteria that you're looking for that this house doesn't quite meet? And we get to have a little conversation around what they're really starting to look for. Excellent. You know what? I'm curious. What's your time frame? Oh, well, we want to be in a house as quickly as possible. Our lease is up at the end of the month. Oh man. So would it be okay? Do you have another 5 or 6 minutes or so? Could we just sit down and allow me to kind of walk you through other properties that may be available that are similar to this? And we sit down, we open that KW app, we're right there, we're looking at those properties. And then to Alex's point, I'll just ask for the appointment right then and there. Does it make sense? I'm out of here in 20 minutes. Does it make sense? Here, I have some coupons for a free coffee. Here's my thought. What if you went and got some coffee and I'll meet you in 25 minutes at this particular address? In the meantime, I'm going to call and see if I can secure us an appointment to get in there. And just go and show them a house right after the fact. Right? Cal.
So to your point about calling on the same day, well, I haven't done a lot of open houses. Invariably, there's a question that they'll ask that I was by myself, the agent wasn't there, it wasn't on any sheet, and I had to make a telephone call. And I got the answer or answers, and I was able to call them before 5 o'clock. So I think that was good to do because it shows that you're aggressive and you want to service, and might get you the next appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. And just remember, it's impossible to know all the answers all the time, right? So what Cal just demonstrated for you is the success in the idea of, you know what, that's a great question. I don't know the answer 100%. However, I do know where to find it. So let me work on that while you check out the backyard or you check out the basement, see if I can get that quickly for you. And if they come back up from the basement, you say, well, So I wasn't able to locate that answer. However, I do have it coming my way. Would it be okay if I gave you a call before dinner time once I have that answer?
Exactly.
Right, and now you've even gotten permission to follow up later that day because they're looking for that answer, right? It's always about helping people take the next step. If you wait for them to take the step, well, then who's guiding who? Right? Your job is to help guide them forward. So let's go ahead and do that. Help them take the next step. So what other versions of follow-up are there, right? You're going to make that phone call, minimally a text that same day. Are you signing them up for the KW consumer app so they have access to you and all the inventory in the palm of their hand? Are you setting them up on some kind of an automated drip system with properties that meet a certain criteria? I'm going to come back and talk to you about that next week because there's pros and cons to that. We're going to hold that when we talk more about buyers. Are you going home that night and reviewing the MLS, but not just the MLS? So are you sending them a couple of ideas to say, hey, you know what, based on our conversation of earlier today or of yesterday, whatever you're doing this, these properties kind of floated to the top of my mind for you. Check them out. What do you think? Any of these properties make sense for us to go and take a visit to? I would then go and look at expireds and old expireds. And my next communication, maybe on Tuesday, would be, if I haven't captured them yet for an appointment for a buyer consult, by Tuesday, I might be saying, hey, you know what? I have access to some potential inventory that's not on the market. And I'm just curious if that would be of interest to you based on our conversation on Sunday. Dangle, 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 right? Expireds is an entire source of business that may work for them. Maybe it's a call that you could make to say, hey, you know what? I know your house came off the market 2 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. I have somebody who has expressed interest for a property that's very similar to yours. Any chance that you would be interested in entertaining a conversation around becoming a seller again? Right? Anna.
My open house leads came to see a property on the water, and then I follow up in probably a few days, not right away. But it was two Chinese ladies, and they were looking for 2 apartments together. It's 2 friends. And I called them. I said, well, how are you doing? Are you how do you feel about this unit? They said, no, it's too old. We're actually looking for new construction. This is an old construction, 1980s. We're not interested. So I said, okay, may I please ask your permission if I will have something, I will call you. They said, yeah, sure. But she didn't feel like she was interested. So I looked up some of my list of vendors and builders. I called one guy and he said, yes, I will have a new construction on 5th Street in April. So I called them back. And you know, Rick, it changed everything. So even her tonality, even how she started to talk to me. So I met them both, they came both. And she said, you know, Anna, I changed my mind. I don't want to buy new construction because of job, but I'm really interested to buy like 2-bedroom in high-rise building. So right now I'm like working with them every week and they keep texting me. Even like in Westchester, they said, we want you to show us in Westchester. So it doesn't matter. I think it just be some like show them value and show something different that other cannot show and be like dig deeper, right?
Yeah, 100%. Remember, there's no traffic on the extra mile, right? So always just go the extra mile because it makes all the difference in the world. Right, Anna just told you that they changed when she came back with something that was exclusive or unique or something she kind of dug up and found just for them. Bam, everything changed, right? So be impressive. Remember, the MLS is not the only place that property exists. As a matter of fact, it's only one of a whole long list of different sources. Are you making sure that you're exploring all those sources? Do you have a working knowledge of all the for sale by owners that are currently listed on Zillow or any other for sale by owner type site? Do you know all of those? If someone came into an open house and described the property they were looking for, could you find a for sale by owner that might work for them? And give them a call to say, you know what, I have something that's kind of off market. I'm curious if that would make sense for you. Here's the description. Here's what it, right? And remember, you're always stepping them towards let's meet and have a buyer consultation, or let's have a Zoom buyer consultation, because those typically happen faster. You can have somebody on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock be on Zoom for 45 minutes and work your buyer consult with them on Zoom. You don't have to wait until the next weekend when they're available to come into the office. And what that does is it also saves time, because now next week you're just going out and showing property, right? It's part of why the open house follow-up is so important, because you want to move people. You don't want time. You should write this down as well. Time is no one's friend. In a transaction, it's no one's friend. In relationships, it's no one's friend. Some of you think, well, I'm going to let this marinate for a while. All that's happening is they're forgetting about you. It's not marinating. You're just leaving their mind. And somebody else they met in an open house who is more in touch than you are, they're capturing the mind share. Right? So be careful about that. You have to show up more often and more. Yeah, Donna says more skilled, right? And you know what? Showing up more often is a skill. Because it takes an understanding of how to show up for them. Remember, successful people are willing to do what others are unwilling to do. And successful people in real estate, follow up. Write this down. The fortune is in the follow-up. The fortune's in the follow-up. So you've got to have powerful follow-up systems. Within the first couple of days or 24 to 48 hours, are you connecting with them on social media platforms? Because here's the other thing I can tell you. Nowadays, people are more interested in hiring someone they feel like they understand better. If I go and check you out on social media and you seem like a kind of an interesting person, a well-rounded human, oh, look, there's what neat family, oh, a trip, oh, they were in Greece, I love Greece, this must be the realtor for me. You never know what's going to connect someone with you. So social media, it's why a presence on social media is and online is so massively important, because people are going to be checking you out. And if you don't show up or you don't have any kind of a presence out there, that can be a problem. They can pass you by, right? So all these techniques, call, text, email, serve, give, find some other opportunities, call them with some exciting news, intrigue them, be compelling, connect with them on social media platforms. So now they're seeing more of a well-rounded you. And that doesn't mean go like my business page, right? It means show them you. I'm a huge proponent. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite as well, because I'm not all that prevalent out there on social media myself, personally, right? People know me on social media through all of you. However, hypocritical as it may be, it's still the path you need to go down, because people will then take your call, right? How many times has Donna met somebody at an open house, and because she's now connected with them on the back end, right? Donna loves dogs. She has an entire business around dogs. What if these folks are dog people? Then she calls, and guess what? Guess what? She doesn't even know this is happening. The phone rings, and they say, the couple says to each other, oh, I think it's that dog lady realtor. And here's the thing, they don't have to remember her name. Who cares? As long as dog lady realtor are all in the same sentence, they're talking about her. And they answer the phone because now they're compelled to be in a relationship. And that's the opportunity then. If you're not compelling to people to be in a relationship, they're not going to answer your call because now you're just the realtor being annoying. Right? You see how it works? Lisa, then Stuart.
Yes, quick question. When you were talking about, knowing what the FSBOs are out there, et cetera, and then, the blurb that you gave about it, they're interested, you call up the FSBO seller, they say, yeah, they're interested, and they're interested in giving a buyer broker commission, et cetera. You go over, you meet them to see the house, blah, blah, blah. You bring your paperwork. And you have your scripts down. I know you've said you don't do opens, but I've come across this before in the past where they absolutely will not sign an exclusive, but they will pay a buyer broker fee for a buyer. So what paperwork then would you use?
Well, so I don't do opens. Open listing agreements
Right.
is what Lisa's talking about there. Because I don't find them to be useful. I don't find them to be necessary. In a scenario where someone is willing to pay for a buyer, I would just simply have an agreement of compensation. We purposely don't have a fill in the blank for a for sale by owner situation like that, because I would rather you call me and say, here's the scenario. I have templates that I have written. I'll fit your scenario into one of my templates and or make some adjustments and send you something so that you have an agreement of compensation between you, the seller, you and the brokerage and the seller. So in a scenario like that, I literally just did one this afternoon for someone.
Perfect.
It's just a simple outline that the seller signs. But that's not an exclusive right to represent, right? So a lot of the exclusive crap comes out, and it's simple. This is our agreement, and usually I like to have you have a buyer first. So we're going to show Maria and Tom Smith this property on this date, and if Maria and Tom Smith buy this property, you, the owner of this property, are going to pay Keller Williams 3% as agreed. Sign here, sign here, sign here.
Okay, so do that before you show the buyer, obviously.
Yeah, 100%, right? Signatures first, then people. And remember, if you represent the buyers, well, then you also have a buyer agreement as well. So you're doubly protected now, because even if the seller flakes out, there's compensation on the buy side. So you kind of bookend that opportunity. Stuart.
Hey, Rick, it's strange. Actually, I could actually speak to that. It just closed on FSBO a week and a half ago. And the buyer's attorney gave me 2 lines to put into the exclusive, actually not the exclusive right, but the purchase agreement, which I pulled into DocuSign, and then I had the seller, the FSBO, sign that they're going to compensate Keller Williams per each property 2.5 in this case %, signed and dated with the name. And obviously I ran it by the buyer's attorney, and that was all legitimate. So that went very well. So what is your opinion about that?
Yeah, so my opinion about that is I would, here's the struggle. In the future, when you have scenarios where you're looking to get paid,
yeah,
don't ask the attorneys involved, because please ask me.
Yep.
protect your commission. Remember, attorneys don't represent you, they represent the clients involved. And so the last place that I believe compensation should show up is in a contract that we're not a party to, right? The purchase agreement, and Stuart, I'm certain that everything went fine.
Yeah.
Here's the issue. It's kind of like insurance, right? You have insurance for when the stuff goes wrong. And in a scenario where either the buyer or the seller or both could have turned around and said, you know what, we're not paying anybody. It would be very difficult for me to utilize a document that I was not a party to, that we didn't sign, to say we're due this compensation, because it wasn't a contract between me as the broker and the seller. And that's what we need. We need agreements of compensation between the brokerage and the person who's going to pay. That's what a listing agreement is, and that's what a buyer agreement is. So in a scenario where it's off market, just bring me the details. Just tell me, and I will create something. If the attorneys think it's overkill, I don't care, right? My job is to protect you and make sure that you get paid. Their job is to push things to a closing, and that's different. And I'm not saying that attorneys are necessarily working against us. However, they're not a fiduciary to you or to me. They're a fiduciary to their clients. And that what you described is a shortcutting process that if something went sideways, we'd have a very difficult time in court if we had to get there getting paid.
Got it.
Right. So like, don't put things in leases, don't put things in the contract. We're not a party to that. That's a document between a buyer and a seller. We have to be a party of that, and we have to have a contract directly with the person who's going to pay. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it comes up all the time.
Good.
The process is just call me.
Okay.
I will create a document that everyone will sign.
Okay.
Then we have a document that the seller signed and that we signed that says they're going to pay under these circumstances. And so if they choose not to pay, then now I have something that I can either put a lien on their house or take to an attorney and start a whole process to collect. The contract or the lease in certain circumstances is not that tool.
Got it.
Donna Doyle.
Hi, so I just had this happen yesterday, actually. I have a client who's about to sign a contract on new construction, and the initial listing expired on MLS beginning of the month. So I was like, well, now what do I do? So I actually had a little chat with Dan, and probably we need to do more than this, but I just sent him a text and said, just so I have this, you're going to pay 2.5% to Keller Williams and me when this closes. And he just said, confirm, yes, confirmed in a text. That's not quite good enough though, is it?
Well, it's better than nothing, and it's better than the expired listing. However, in a scenario like that, again, the MLS is the contract between brokerages that guarantees your commission. And so without that, there is no promise and there is no guarantee of commission, right? Just because you brought somebody to the table. So Don is right to ask that question. With an expired listing, what I would encourage is one of two things. Either convince the listing brokerage to just put the damn thing back on the market, put it back on the MLS so that they can then report it and have the MLS serve its purpose and be that contract between the two brokerages. If there's reasons why that's not going to happen, or if there's certain circumstances that will prevent that, or they just don't want to, then what I would encourage you to do, Donna, is get me the details. That means the property address, the buyer's names, the seller's names, and the commission, and any other details that you want to throw my way. But those are basically the pieces that I need. I'll write an agreement of compensation. We'll send it to the brokerage. The brokerage will either the seller directly will sign it, or the brokerage will sign on behalf of the seller. And then we have an agreement of compensation between someone who will pay.
Yeah. It's the builder is also the agent, and it expired. So I think he's trying to give my client a little piece of that and cut out his broker. So I don't know, but I mean, it's $1 million house, so I kind of want my share.
Yeah,
And I'm okay with them giving my client a little bit of a break.
Yeah, and again, that's between him and his broker, but the idea of you being kind of left dangling a little bit, and again, the text is lovely, however, I'd rather it be more formalized. So send me that information, I'll send you a document. Almost never when it's a simple document just clarifying what someone's already said they would do anyway, people don't have a struggle signing it. So let's just get it in writing, and that would make me feel better, and I think you feel better.
Yeah, thank you. I'll do that. Thank you.
Excellent. Anna.
Rick, I have a question regarding Facebook. So if I will go tomorrow, let's say to preview the property, and actually I said that I'm charging 3.5% on the buyer side, like if I will bring buyer, he doesn't want to pay full commission.
Yeah.
And should I sign different? I thought that it should be like exclusive right to represent. Is it different form?
Okay, so say the beginning part again, because
so basically my clients found Facebook, they sent it to me, I contact the Facebook, I told him that I will charge 3.5, he said okay, I will need just to confirm with my wife, and if it will be okay, I will go tomorrow to preview the property.
Okay, hold just a second. So buyers, because this is where I'm getting confused. Buyers contacted you on Facebook so that you or your buyers want to see a property that was advertised on Facebook with a seller that's not listed with a brokerage on the MLS.
Yeah.
So that is an off-market scenario if there's no MLS involved, or just by the way, guys, if you don't belong to the MLS that it is listed on. So if you're selling a house in Greenwich, now I happen to belong to the Greenwich MLS, so through me, you'd kind of be protected. But if you don't belong to an MLS, the general rule of thumb is the same rules apply. It's as if it's not on the MLS. So bring that to me first, give me the details, we'll get a document, signatures, then showings. Because here's what happens if you don't do that. And I know it's maybe this sounds pessimistic about humankind, and yet I've experienced it way too many times to not have this process in place. What happens is Anna brings these buyers to the seller, and now they've met. And are they exchanging numbers? Are they, when Anna takes a quick phone call, are they having a conversation and the seller says, contact me in 2 weeks? Right? And then all of a sudden Anna's like, oh, what happened to these buyers? They were hot and heavy and now they've vanished. I can't find them. Oh, look, now their agreement expired. Well, what they're doing is they're going and buying it direct, right? Because they think they can get it for less. It's just the way it works sometimes. So again, signatures first, then showings. Let's have clarity from the seller that they're willing to pay and how much, and they sign their name to it. Then you can go and show the property. Now, there have been people I've said that to who said, well, I don't think I'm going to get him to be the for sale by owner to sign before tomorrow at 3 o'clock when my showing is scheduled. What should I do? I said, well, cancel the showing. Like that, to me, that's a no-brainer. And sometimes people listen and sometimes they don't. Again, I can only guide you with best practices and protect you so much. You're still going to take the action one way or the other. But if it were me, without an agreement of compensation, I don't show a property because I don't work. I'm not a charity case. This is not pro bono, right? Or Sunny Bono or any of the bonos. All righty. So, all right, let's, Carly, and then we're going to move to expireds and for sale by owners.
Okay, you kind of answered my question because I've heard some people say like, oh no, like if it's just like a preview, like I'll show it. But like in my mind, I'm like, no, because if I show you it and then you could go talk to your agent friend that you've known for years and just have them put in an offer for you. So you kind of answered my question about that, that is absolutely what you should always do. My other thing was I've gotten, again, I don't work with many buyers. It's just not really my thing on the residential side. I work with investor buyers. But would you, that way I already know that they're pre-approved because, most of the time it's closed with my hard money lender. so I know that they've already discussed and everything, but I've gotten mixed reviews on showing a property to somebody without a proof of funds. I personally don't think it's worth it. Like people, like if they're coming to look at, you know, $1 million house, if you're not showing proof of funds or you can't show proof of funds, then do you feel like it's kind of a waste of everyone's time?
Yeah, so great question. And my answer is absolutely, it's a waste of everyone's time. Right.
Yeah,
But
I kind of
there's-
just say the broker like requires like a buyer's rep and a proof of funds prior
Yeah.
to showing.
there's a phrase that in our industry called ready, willing, and able, right? Buyers need to be ready, willing, and able. I don't use that phrase. I want you to take able and move it right up front. Buyers need to be able, ready, and willing. If they're not able, it doesn't matter if they're ready and willing because they're not able. So and ability, you have to prove ability.
Yep.
Right? So it's pre-approvals from mortgage or proof of funds if it's cash. Then we'll start having a conversation. But you don't get in my car, I don't meet you at a house, you don't get a whole lot of my time until you can prove to me that you are able to purchase. Or else what are we doing?
Yeah.
Right?
And
They're not.
The other thing is like for people who are saying, oh, they can't get something signed quick enough. Like if that's the case, I would say just bring a hard copy. Bring a pen and here you go, sign this and we can go in.
Yeah, and if you're going to be signing kind of on the trunk of the car before you're showing a property, my opinion about that is that you've clearly now not had a buyer consult. And again, we're going to get into this heavier and deeper next week, right?
Okay.
And you know what, I'm going to put a pin in that. Just recognize that if you're signing on the trunk of a car, you haven't had a buyer consult because you haven't been hired and there's no signatures yet, and you're not having a buyer consult on the trunk of a car. And so now we have this conversation that needs to be had, which we will have next week around, okay, well, what do you really have without a buyer consult? You have some stranger, right? Who you know nothing about, they know nothing about you. Is it any wonder why when we hold up a buyer contract, they say, whoa, you know, that's like presenting a ring before you even scheduled the first date. Right?
I
We're
do
meeting
that
each other
more
on-
with investors though, like that I've already worked with.
Yeah,
So like I
and-
have that relationships, but it like specific, like property specific, I guess.
Yeah, and we're that's kind of the workaround we're going to talk about. If it's absolutely necessary, we'll go property specific. But again, we're going to dive deeper into that next week. Anna,
Okay.
and then John, and then we're going to move to expireds and for sale by owners.
Promise, last question. So one more buyer contact me. They found online, like kind of like Facebook, new construction. And they gave me a phone number. I reached them out. It's a company, they build in new single families in Trumbull area. So I called them, I pre-qualify if I can show my buyers. So I asked certain, questions. And the last question was, are you cooperating with agents and are you paying commission? They said, yes, we're paying commission 2.5%. You need to assist your buyer at the first showing, and then you will sign. I said, okay, so would you sign the exclusive right with me? They said, no, we have our own form. So is that enough, Rick, or should I have extra something to protect our site?
Yeah, so a great question, and let's address this kind of globally, and then I'll answer the question specifically. Remember, the exclusive right to represent listing agreement is an agency creation document, which means when you sign that with a seller, you now represent in a fiduciary manner that seller. Most builders they're not interested in your representation, or they would have hired an agent to represent them to begin with. Plus, if they're offering out 3% or 2% or 2.5%, whatever they're offering, and you sign it using an exclusive right to represent, you're now working for both sides for that much money. Because the exclusive right to represent listing contract is an agency creation document. You can't make it not create agency, right? So in a scenario like that, what I would do is I would, again, reach out to me. That's what you guys have me for. Give me the details I will create a document for you that you can have in hand. So when you go and sit, you have your document, you have their document. You can review that, you review their document. If you're uncertain about their document, whether it's good enough, take a picture of it and text it to me. And I'll read it real quick and give you a response. Right. So oftentimes when it's a builder that builds kind of all over, if it's a larger company, they do have their own documents. They do have promises to pay that are sufficient. Sometimes not, depending on who and what the
They
scenario.
do have their own leasing office and representative as well as.
Yeah. So probably you're fine. However, I'd rather you be armed with your own document, and then when they present you with that document, you read it through and you recognize that, okay, this is a promise to pay, and here's how it all works, and that's going to be good, and everyone will sign it. And again, if you have any questions about that, just take a picture and text me the picture. I'll review it and give you the thumbs up, or say, yeah, you know what, you may want to use our document as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. John.
I want to kind of continue that pool of funds conversation.
What conversation?
Pool of funds, sorry. Because it seems to be like a touchy topic, kind of. At least I don't know how to bring it up confidently and professionally yet. So.
And I'm sorry, because I didn't. The what conversation?
Proof of funds, sorry. The proof of funds.
Proof of funds.
Oh, okay, proof of funds. Yeah, so what's the question? How do you ask people to show to prove that they can buy a house? Is that the question? I just want to be certain I'm answering the right question.
Sorry, I thought my mic was on. So I was talking to a mic that was off. But yeah, the proof of funds. Like, how do I go about asking that? Because some people tend to be like turned off, or like they tend to get defensive a little bit.
That's on them, John. You can't let that. So I'm gonna put a pin in that one as well. And we're gonna address that next week when we address buyers. I know I'm pushing a whole lot off, but we really need to get through source of business so that we can actually have the buyers, and then I can work through exactly all that. So save these questions. They're powerful questions, and I will give you absolute answers to them. The simple, quick answer is when you have a process like a buyer consult, and you wrap the conversation around why all these things are necessary into that buyer consult, it answers all their questions and all your questions and brings you to a place of being able to just move forward. Without it, right, it's why you guys have some of these questions, because we haven't gone through the buyer consult yet. It pretty much answers it all. And the simple reality is, guess what? If someone's going to be buying a house, I don't care how much it costs, unless they're paying cash, they are going to be under such scrutiny to obtain the funding that they want to obtain. It's kind of like stepping out of the shower into like the backyard or the front lawn. You just got to be okay with it. This is what it is. Here it is. What do you need to see? And again, we'll talk more about it next week. The bigger issue that John's really talking about has more to do with you guys than it does to do with the clients. And what I mean by that is, some of you are timid about asking questions around money. Some of you are not. Some of you, however, are timid around asking questions around money. Trust me, it's not a forbidden, taboo kind of thing. It's just money. It's just dollars. Some people have a lot of it. Some people have less of it. It doesn't matter. And the only way you get to move forward when you're looking to purchase something like real estate is to have a conversation around money. I'll give you some strategies next week to kind of loosen up yourselves around that and help loosen up clients around that. It's all about setting expectations. All righty. So with that, in our last 30, oh no, we're supposed to end early. Crap-a-doodles. All right. So here's what we're going to do. With our remaining time, we're going to talk a little bit about for sale by owners and then start on Tuesday with expireds. Start on Tuesday with expired. Yes, that will work. So for sale by owner as a source of business. Talk to me a little bit about the for sale by owner. What do you know about for sale by owners?
Rick, if I could just comment on that. Well, basically, it's so the seller wants to save on the seller commission or listing agent commission. That's the principle behind it. And when you have a buyer who's interested in that, obviously you do your fiduciary responsibility. And but know this, to whoever hasn't had a FSBO, you're really doing the seller's agent work as well. For example, on my transaction, the seller didn't know what a lead disclosure was. So I have to walk them through a lot of, of the process. But it was a good experience. So, but it is work. Yep.
Yes. So for sale by owners, and I'm thrilled, Stuart, because you said what you said in such a way that's exactly right. Oftentimes people say about for sale by owners, oh, they don't want to pay a commission. And that is typically incorrect. They typically, like Stuart said, expertly, what they typically want is to save on the list side of the commission. That's different than they just don't want to pay a commission, right? So in today's market, it's funny because we're in a world today where for sale by owners are more prevalent, at least locally, than probably in the entirety of my 22 or 3, whatever it is, year career. They've always been kind of one here, one there. You could never literally you couldn't make a living on selling for sale, listing or selling for sale by owners. Today, they're a segment of the market that, again, on the buy side, normally we talk about for sale by owners on the listing side, and I'm going to give you some scripts about around for sale by owners on the listing side. On the buyer side, they are also now an opportunity to find inventory for buyers who are struggling with just MLS listed properties, right? And so I want to make sure everyone understands that if you have a signed buyer client, your job is not just to find property listed on the MLS. There are other avenues that you need to be pursuing to make sure that you find valid property, and for sale by owners is absolutely one of them. Today, one of the best places to find it is Zillow, right? Because Zillow does list for sale by owners. There's a section there where you're not connected to an agent, and there are a bunch of FSBO sites, and of course, you guys still see it on, in Craigslist or on Facebook, or you drive past and there's a sign in front on someone's tree or in their lawn, right? All of those places is where you'll find the for sale by owner. The other thing that's important that Stuart said is, if in fact you bring a buyer to a for sale by owner, trust me, you're going to be doing both sides of the work, or at least a lion's share of both sides of the work, right? It's why in our buyer contract, it says if we assist you with a property off market, our fee for that is 5%, not 3%. Because we're looking to wrap in both sides of the transaction there, because it's more work. So that's kind of the overview on for sale by owners. With the remaining time, and Lisa, I'll get to the question in just half a second. With the remaining time, what I do want to discuss with you is a process by which you can have conversations with for sale by owner sellers who could eventually become your listing clients. Lisa, question before I do that.
Yes, what I've also found with FSBOs is the for sale by owners, when they're comping their properties, they normally have been listed with an agency. So they're seeing that price and they're valuing their property with already a listing agency compensation built into that price that the property closed.
Yeah, and that's correct and fair, because remember that most properties sell via the MLS, which means MLS listed properties, which do include real estate agency compensation. That's what's setting the tone for the market, right? Because most properties are MLS listed. And to expect a for sale by owner to put their home on the market not at what visual stated realistic market value might be, and say, oh, well, I'm not paying that, so I'm going to reduce that down to X. Most for sale by owners simply do not do that.
Okay.
Right.
I haven't approached that, but
and to have the expectation that they will, because the mistake that sometimes people make is to advise buyers to say, well, make them a lower offer. They're not paying a commission, so therefore, they should expect that's not the point. The point of for sale by owner is they're looking to put more money in their pocket by having the same amount of money come to them as if they were on the market, and not pay as much in fees. That's what they're on there for. And the conversation we're about to have is really one of the successful path forward with the for sale by owner. And I'm not sure why real estate agents decide to do the opposite here. The path forward with for sale by owner is to never make them feel wrong. Regardless if they're 1,000% wrong, the second you make them feel wrong, you're certainly not going to list their property if it doesn't sell on their own, because you're just the person who keeps showing up telling them that they're wrong, or how dumb they are, or how foolish it is to not sell a property with a realtor. Now, let me ask you this. In the United States, what % of homes sell without a real estate agent? Do you know?
7.
Say again?
7.
Yeah, it's depending on where you are, it's anywhere from 7 to 11%. That's a lot of homes that sell without a real estate agency involved. So let me ask you this. Is it possible to sell without a real estate agent? Yeah, of course it is, right? So be careful that you're not coming from the perspective of, gee, what a fool you must be to not have hired me. Right? Because that's coming from a place of, it's not coming from a place of being helpful. And remember, on the list side, the second you make someone feel wrong, you don't get the listing. So let's talk about how you make them feel right. Let's talk about what the process is. So you get in your car and you're driving to the office, which by the way, we are open and ready to receive you. So please get in your cars and drive to the office. Have you heard me say that recently? We want to see you, please. I'm going to tell you what, the offices yesterday, for the first time in almost 24 months, all of our locations were buzzing. There were people around there. It was great. I just ran around hugging everybody. And I'm not a hugger, for those of you who know me. I was just so happy that there were people and noise and conversation and stuff. And I overheard a referral being made from one agent to the next. So if you're interested in business, come on into the office. There's business to be had. So the idea of for sale by owner. You get in the car to drive to the office, and 3 doors down from you, there's a sign in front of the yard that says, for sale by owner. Here's the thing I want you to start training yourself to do. Say, awesome opportunity. Another seller in my neighborhood. Too many of us see the for sale by owner sign and say, oh, can't believe it. There goes an opportunity. They're my neighbor too. They even know me. They didn't even call me to list the property. That is correct, but it's still an opportunity. And here's how you turn for sale by owner into an opportunity. The first thing you do is you jot down that telephone number and you make a call. And the call that you make is, hey, this is Rick Scott with Keller Williams Realty. I noticed when I drove past your home earlier today, or I saw you online, or I saw you on Facebook, or wherever you might have seen it, that you're interested in selling your home. I'm curious, how's that going? Yeah, the good news is we're recording this, so you can kind of look at the time so you know what. Jot down 1:40 at the 1 hour 40 minute mark is where this FSBO script exists. How's it going? And they'll say whatever they're going to say. It's going great. It's not going well. We just started. We don't want a realtor, right? Whatever that answer is. And you validate that answer. Oh, I completely understand. Or, oh, that's great. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, I was curious. Not only do I live in the neighborhood, but I am a real estate professional, and I do come across buyers from time to time whose criteria may meet your home, or your home may meet their criteria. I'm curious if that were to pop up over the course of the next week or two, would it be okay if I gave you a call back to set up a time to show those potential buyers your property? 9 out of 10 times, what's the answer to that?
Yes.
Yeah, of course, right? Why would they say no to potential buyers? Now, sometimes the answer is, well, you could certainly show them, but I'm not paying you. I'm not paying a commission. Great. That's good to know. Thanks for that clarity. I appreciate that. So, hey, I just wanted to see if that was a possibility, knowing that I have a bunch of buyers in tow that are struggling with finding the right inventory to purchase. Thank you very much for your time. If it's all right with you, I'd like to just check in from time to time and see how you're doing. Have a great afternoon. Bye. What didn't I ask them to do?
List their
List their house. That's right. I did not ask them to list their house. Biggest mistake you can make when you're calling a for sale by owner is to ask them to be their listing agent. Guys, they're a for sale by owner. They don't want you, or they would have called you, or someone just like you. Right? Respect that. Recognize it. Don't fight it. And certainly don't throw it in their face. You're looking to build a relationship over time. So that's the first call. It's an intro. Here's who I am. I sometimes have buyers that your house may fit their criteria. Would it be okay if that was the case for me to call you back and set up a showing? Yes, no, in between, great. Again, it doesn't matter what the answer is. I'm just looking to have an intro. I'm just setting up my next call. So it matters very little to me whether or not they're willing to have someone come and show it, whether they're paying or not paying. Who cares? I don't even ask that question. Because as a listing agent, I'm looking for the listing on the tail end. I'm not necessarily looking to bring my buyers to the house unless I happen to have them. But this is a process by which you can be the last person standing when they're ready to list. So you make that phone call. The following Monday, this is always Mondays, by the way. The following Monday, you make another phone call. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. For Sale by Owner, it's Rick Scott with Keller Williams Realty. How's it going? Hey, I just have a quick question for you. Is the house sold? Well, no. Oh, that's too bad. Hey, I'm curious, what was your traffic like this weekend? Oh, we had a bunch of people come and look. Oh, that's great news. Hey, I'm curious, is there anything that you need any help with? No, I think we're good. All right, great. Well, you know what? If you ever need me, you know where to find me. Have a great week. Bye. Click. Next Monday. Hey, it's Rick Scott, Keller Williams Realty. How are you? It's Monday. I'm curious, is the house sold? No. Oh, bummer. Hey, I'm curious. How is your traffic? Well, frankly, it was kind of light this weekend. You're kidding. Oh my goodness. My listings were busier than a one-arm paper hanger. I wonder what's preventing folks from popping by your place. You know what? Is there anything that I can do to assist in any way? Any questions you might have? No, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but no, thanks. We're good. We're gonna stick it out. I completely understand. I wish you an awesome week. Bye. Next Monday. Are you getting the hint? Are you starting to see the pattern here? Hey, it's Rick Scott. How are you? Oh, we're terrible. Oh, I'm terribly sorry to hear that. What's going on? I'm curious, is the house sold? No. Ugh. Well, what was your traffic like this weekend? Not one person. That's actually not true. We thought we had somebody on Sunday who was supposed to come at 1 o'clock. I stayed home from my son's soccer game because they were supposed to come at 1 o'clock. And guess what? They didn't show up. Oh, man. I am so sorry about that. So sorry about that. We have some systems in place in my world that help alleviate some of that from happening. Man, I'm curious, do you have any questions? Is there any way I can help you? Well, and I'll put you out of your misery. I won't do another week. Is it possible that you might be able to talk with us about assisting us to get this house sold? Sure thing. I would be thrilled to. I have some time later this afternoon or early evening, which works best for you, like 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And we set the appointment and go. What do you notice about that process with the for sale by owner? What are your ahas there? Because there should be a bunch. Give me ahas first, and then I'll take questions.
Little by little, they're realizing they're needing your expertise.
Exactly right. And again, over that period of time, what have I never done?
Ask them
Give
for
up.
listing.
I've never asked them for the listing. And Jorge makes a really good point. I didn't give up. I'm the last person standing, because I'm going to tell you what, most for sale by owners last about 30 days. That's statistically kind of how it goes. Even if there were more than just you phoning them in the beginning, after week 2, you're the only one who's still in contact with them. Certainly 30 days later, you're the only one who's still in contact with them. I'm always offering service. I'm always offering to answer questions. I've had for sale by owners say to me, a buyer did come and say to me that that there were these forms that they were looking for, some disclosure forms. Oh my goodness, are you talking about the federal lead and the state property condition disclosure forms? Well, I'm not sure. Oh, well, you know what? Here's what I can do. If it would be helpful to you, I can send you those forms. I would encourage you to get some assistance via your attorney. You do have an attorney that's helping you with this process, right? Oh, well, no, not really. Do we need one? I do encourage that. However, I'll be happy to send forms so that you at least have them to work with. Again, I'm going to help. Because 30 days later, I'm the last person standing. I'm the only person who offered them assistance. I'm the only one who didn't tell them that they were making a bad decision by not having a real estate agent involved. I didn't have entitlement around the listing or around them wanting my assistance. I just was there for them. It's like, you know what? I'm the shoulder to cry on if you feel like you need to cry. If you don't, that's okay. I'll take my shoulder and go home. Right? I can tell you, I've put this in play numerous times. It works. It works every time. Or they sell the property and then I'm genuinely excited for them. That's awesome. I'm not wishing them bad juju, right? That's great. I'm so excited for you. All right, we've got 2 questions. And then for those of you who are joining us for career night, your career night will start promptly at 6. We're going to be wrapping up in just a minute or 2, and we'll be clearing the room, and your career night facilitators will take over at 6 o'clock. In the meantime, for those of you who are here for career night, sit back and enjoy, or put us on mute, whichever makes the best sense for you. We're just going to finish up some questions for class. Lisa, then Marlene, then Jorge.
So I'm not playing devil's advocate. I just want to say that because I certainly understand this process and it's a great process. But I lost a listing. It was one in Riverside, and the owner, it was a FISBO. She invited some brokers to come out. She was trying to replicate a little broker open house, but she did it on, not on a day when the brokers were out in that area. They were more north of town, so nobody was going to be coming by. Had her food out to feed the brokers. I whipped by because I live in Riverside. I asked her how it was going. She said I was the only person there. We get to talking, tell her I'm excited for her to show me the house. We have great rapport, blah, blah, blah. She loved my background, pre-real estate, which was interior architectural design. And we get along really well. Now, I didn't ask her for the listing. She asked me to give her advice on different things. I did all of that. I found though, I noticed the house was still on the market. I called her up, asked her if she needed any help to do those little changes that she wanted, etc. I'd call back, ask her how, I was doing that sort of thing. And then another week later, somebody listed her house, an agent.
Yeah.
And I thought,
so here's the answer.
It's over a $2.5 million home. I wanted to beat myself up because I thought, was I afraid to ask or what did I do wrong?
Yeah, so let's be clear. I said this last week, I'll say it again. Not everything works 100% of the time, right? That's why this is a numbers volume business, right? If you had been in touch with 3 or 4 or 8 different $2.5 million for sale by owners over the same period of time, doing things consistently as I just outlined, one of them may have gone your way. 3 of them may have gone your way. When it's just the one, it's not a large enough sample size.
No, I understand that.
Right. And so sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. There may have been maybe she listed with her sister.
I knew the agent. They were in my previous agency, but I was wondering, when you're building up that rapport over, the few weeks, what did they do that I failed to do?
Yeah, it's impossible for me to answer that question. I'll answer it
just
this way.
asked. Okay.
I'll answer it this way, however. Be careful that you're not mistaking building rapport with building business rapport, because building business rapport is something different than just building rapport. Having good conversation and being nice and being helpful is different than showing up as a real estate professional each and every time, right? That you're connecting. So again, Monday morning quarterbacking something is almost impossible to do without more data and understanding about what went on. So we'll leave it at that. But just remember, this is a volume business. You're not going to win every single one. That's why you have to have all of your pokers in the fire all of the time and constantly be working these and here and out and in the expireds, the for sale by owners, the database, the open houses. Marlene and then Jorge, and then we're getting kicked out of the room. So let's go through these 2 questions quickly.
I thought that was so brilliant what you did. It was like amazing, but here's another benefit. Even if you don't get the listing, they could become a buyer.
Sure thing. Sure thing. That's exactly right, right? And you have that opportunity because you are showing up as the professional each week, even when they sell the house. So if you call one Monday morning and say, is the house sold? And they say, yes, you say, yay, that's awesome. Hey, I'm curious. We never talked about this. Where are you headed? And so if they're headed to Atlanta, you then ask them, I'm curious, do you have an agent that you're contracted with down in Atlanta? I actually have some members of my team that I could connect you with down in Atlanta. Or if they're staying locally, you offer your services locally. Great point, Marlene. Jorge, bring us home.
Yes, sir. So how about in the scenario you just gave us? Realistically speaking, the first or second call you gave them, they hang up on you. How do you handle that? Will you call them again?
If they just hang up the phone?
Yeah, on the first or second call you give them, how do you handle that? would you call them again the third or fourth time?
Yeah, so here's, I'll give you two different answers. The first answer is, I'm going to tell you what, I was a heavy expired guy and a for sale by owner guy when I was still in the field day to day. I didn't have those experiences. I didn't have people treat me badly or yell at me or hang up the phone or be rude. Now, did it ever happen? Sure. Right? Just like sometimes you run into a jerk at Stop and Shop, right? You like sometimes the jerks are unavoidable. However, as a rule of thumb, those kinds of things didn't happen because part of the reason I think is because I just knew I was making a phone call to help somebody out. I was making a phone call to offer assistance. I was making a phone call. I wasn't trolling for business. I built a business that comes from contribution. And when you come from contribution, you sound different and people are more likely to want to have a conversation with you. Right? I didn't sound like a salesperson. I sounded like someone who was calling to offer some assistance. Again, did it ever happen? Sure. And not very often. And when it did happen, I had a script for that. My script for Hangups was as follows. Hey, it's Rick Scott with Keller Williams. Click. Well, that wasn't where I expected it to go. So I would just dial again. Just call the same number back. Hello. Yes, hi. I am so sorry. I think my phone dropped the call. This is Rick Scott with Keller Williams. I just wanted to mention, and because people who are rude enough to hang up on you one time are usually not brave enough to hang up on you a second time.
Excellent.
So my script was just, I called back, oh, I'm so sorry we got disconnected. Where were we? Just continue the conversation, right? So
Love it.
I hope that's helpful. All right, guys,
Thank you.
Your homework for the weekend is either host an open house if you have already shadowed somebody or have some experience with open houses, or if you've never hosted an open house yourself, I want you to find someone to shadow open houses. Look online, look on the MLS, see who in the office is doing some open houses. Find somebody, call them and say, hey, would you mind if I just shadowed you for even 25 minutes or 35 minutes? You don't have to stay the whole time if you don't choose to, although I do encourage you to stay as long as you can to learn from what's going on with your colleagues. So shadow somebody this weekend if you've never hosted an open house on your own. If you have, figure out what you're going to do and host an open house this weekend. Have an awesome weekend. I will see you back here Tuesday at 4 o'clock. For those of you who are here for career night, please hang out. You're going to start with your career night facilitators in about 2 minutes. For those of you who are not hanging out for career night, if you guys could exit the room, that would be so awesome. Guys, see you soon.